Welcome to Compai's Expat channel. I'm Compai. I am Susua's voice of reason. Don't have too many guests in the studio. My fault, but today I am honored to have Mario in the studio, one of the best real estate agents, I believe, on the North Coast and on the island as well.
Thank you.
You have a big footprint going, my friend.
Thank you.
You're
thank
setting
you.
up offices everywhere.
I'm setting up, but I'm also closing. So it's a weird thing that I'm doing a transition. I'm kind of coming full circle back to Susua here. When I left here in 2018 to Punta Cana, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I got to Punta Cana in 2018, I was a different person, but it was also a different place. And I spent a lot of time there. And at one point, I had 4 offices throughout the country, even Las Terrenas. And I even had one in Cap Cana for like a year. So I've kind of like tried everything to figure out, get in where you fit in, they say, right?
Yep.
So I've tried to see where I fit in. And I kind of came full circle back here because it kind of fits the lifestyle that I'm looking at right now. And when I moved to Punta Cana was a totally different animal, and it changed into something different. And I woke up one day and I said, this no longer works for me. So what I did is I want to try to keep it really simple as possible. So I ended up coming back to the North Coast. I have the office in Santiago, which I opened up for a good friend of mine. I've known her for like 12, 13 years. She worked with me when I had my last office there. And some people don't know, but that's where I started in Santiago in 2004. So that's like home for me. I always go back home whenever I decided I don't like something. I always go back home. So I went there and I opened that up, and then I teamed up here with Tracy that has Cocotazo Cafe. And we launched this office here as well as the law firm, because every office that I have is a law firm. So my law firm has more offices. They have Punta Cana, they have Santo Domingo, and everything. But as far as the real estate, I have Santiago, and I'm just focusing on here because I found I had so many offices, and like doing business here, it's very dynamic, right?
To say the least.
Yeah. So I found that I was being overstretched. I was driving too much. I was everywhere, but I wasn't anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I started just kind of taking things down a little bit. And I said, look, Mario, you can't run all over the place, and just focus. At one point, I thought I wanted to focus on Punta Cana, which I did, but then I realized that what it changed into, it didn't work any longer for me. So that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to focus, but I'm going to focus somewhere else.
Well, let me bring up one good point Mario said, and I say this all the time. I have to be in Casa de Compai. Having a business down here is like pushing a wheelbarrow. The minute you don't put effort behind it, it stops. So if you have a lot of offices everywhere, it's tough to keep that momentum going. You got to be in it.
There's a lot of places to rent in Susua. If you're looking for peaceful, affordable, and tranquil, look at Casa de Compai, Susua's hidden gem. When you're ready to reserve at Casa de Compai, my contact information is in the description down below.
But the one thing that I would really like to get from you is you said Punta Cana really, really changed. Now, I say all the time, I only know the north coast of the Dominican Republic. I don't claim to know Punta Cana, Las Terrenas, Santiago. Get into why Punta Cana is different now than it was when you first went there.
Oh, that's a very good question, and I know a lot of people ask that question. So my experience is I've lived here in Susua before. I've been here since 2015, here since 2004 visiting. I had my first bar in Santiago in like 2010. I've lived in Santo Domingo, Bellavista, Piantini. I had an office and an apartment for 6 to 8 months, something like that, in Las Terrenas. And I have lived everywhere in Punta Cana. So when I talk about Punta Cana, people have to understand, most people, when they're talking about Punta Cana, they're not going to Punta Cana. They're going to Bávaro. So Bávaro is a separate, complete, it's like saying you're in Cabarete, but saying it's Susua, which is not, because it's a different demographic. It's just different, totally, right? So I've lived in the Bávaro Punta Cana area. I've lived in Punta Cana Village. That's where I first moved to. I've lived in Cap Cana, right in the marina. I've lived in Cocotal. I've lived during the pandemic, I was in Corrales Cortecito, right by the beach there. My last apartment there right now was in Vista Cana, which is one of the biggest projects, the monstrosity that they created right there on the road.
I got a buddy who's buying a condo. There's a marina being built there as well, or something.
No, but Vista Cana doesn't have a marina. They have a artificial like beach, and then they have another lagoon on the side where you can get like a little, you get like the little surfing electric thing and little boats and stuff. So it's basically think of big lakes, right? One that's made kind of like a beach, one that's more for fishing and doing some boating and stuff like that. So that's what they had. And they're opening up another artificial lake or whatever in the back that's supposed to be even bigger. Because there's over 70 projects being built in that one residential, just so you know.
Intense.
It is, and I lived there, and I jogged and walked and biked all over, even the parts that were not developed. So I can tell you, it's just, I lived in one place, and just in the one building complex that I lived in was over 400 apartments.
Incredible. So so basically it's getting too built up. Is
What
that
happened?
fair to say?
Yes. In my opinion, yes. Now, again, I will give them. This is what I will give Punta Cana, right? And this is how it's changed, right? So when I first got to Punta Cana, I moved to Punta Cana Village. It was upscale Dominicans. That's what it is. Punta Cana is in front of the airport. Just so people know, Punta Cana is Punta Cana Village in front of the airport, and Punta Cana Resort, where Julio Iglesias, Don Rainieri, and these people live, right? That's Punta Cana proper, right there. The Gallerias Mall with the restaurants. Everything outside of there, once you pass that blue mall and everything there, that's not Punta Cana. You go to the left, you're Cap Cana. Different family, different plan of construction. Everything's totally different. You go up to Bávaro, and you're going to Bávaro, that has nothing to do with Punta Cana. The people in Punta Cana own that land there. So like you saw the new overpass, I don't know if you saw in the news that they built. Mm-hmm. Well, they built in a record time because that's private land and was built by Grupo Punta Cana. So whenever you see, it's called Grupo, they have like a little, like a leaf, yep, like a thing. Whenever you see Punta Cana together, that's Grupo Punta Cana. When you see the word Punta and Cana split, that has nothing to do with them. That's what they branded as Bávaro. That's how you can just visually tell.
All right. Now,
So
I kind of wondered why they had two different logos, because
that's the
that
original
makes
one.
sense.
The one
Okay.
you see with like the flower, whatever, the plant, the palm tree, and it's Grupo and it's Punta Cana, one word. That's them. So Punta Cana itself has their own private beach, which is beautiful. The beach club right there, Playa Blanca, stunning. You know, they have the luxury resorts, multi-million-dollar mansions. And in Punta Cana Village, a lot of like wealthy Dominicans, executives live there. You're talking about houses from $650 to 1.2, 1.3 million. You're talking about $250 for a one bedroom, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So they have a very good plan, and that place always holds its value. That's one of I would say Punta Cana, the real Punta Cana, and Casa de Campo are the two places in the Dominican Republic that have never lost value and will never lose value because of the way they don't overdevelop. They know how to build wealth in the properties that they constructed there, so they don't overdevelop, and that creates more demand than there is supply.
All right, let me interject real quick. We had a conversation before, and we were talking about how people are getting taken advantage of. Do you feel that is hurting Punta Cana, where projects aren't getting done on time? There's, I don't want to say fraud, but there's a lot.
I know
of,
there is fraud. You can say
fraud.
that. No, it's in the news. My pet thing is like I follow like all this like Latin, not only here but like in two other countries in Latin America. I follow Latin American politics. Even like Mexico, I follow. I just love this kind of stuff, and I follow everything that goes on here, whether it's politics, real estate, and I think it definitely has put a strain not only on Punta Cana but on the country itself and its reputation. Because like one project just came out now, 1,200 apartments, 1,200 buyers are basically up the creek, right?
Yep.
You've got a lot of projects that are not being given in on time, and now what happens is a lot of those contracts have a penalty that the developer has to pay. So if you're paying 2, 3, 4, 5, 600 people every month, you're paying a penalty. You can bankrupt. They can get bankrupt like that, and the project won't get built.
We've seen it here on the North Coast.
And that's something that the government has not interjected in, and that's part of the problem. They let, and Don Rainieri was on the news recently. He said anybody can throw a little caliche, can build a complex and say I'm a developer. They have no control over the development, yes. And because the land there is so big, I mean, I don't think people understand how massive Punta Cana is. I used to live in Cap Cana, and I ended up moving to Vista Cana because my office is in downtown, right by by the clubs and all that kind of stuff. So I would drive 35, 40 minutes in the traffic with all the crazy cars and the transports and everything, and I would only be right downtown Punta Cana. You still got another part going up.
I've never been to Punta Cana, and I probably never will. It just doesn't, I'm the North Coast guy. This is home. This is where I planted my flag. I got all my businesses here. Why back to the North Coast? What attracted you to come back to the North Coast? I believe the North Coast is set to have a huge boom. I think the way the economy is going, where it's going down, forcing the buyers out, but I believe the investors are coming in. Do you think the North Coast is set for that expansion?
If they do it correctly, I definitely think so. And I'll explain to you why. Now, I have to give one thing to Punta Cana, right? I have to give them when it comes to, supermarkets, the mall, shopping, electrodomésticos and things like that. You can't beat that. Punta Cana is like Santo Domingo now. For many different things, you don't have to go to Santo Domingo anymore. You've got IKEA, you've got Alice, you've got Almacén Unidos, you've got all these things that you have in Santo Domingo that you can buy furniture, you can buy everything. It's great. You have Ilumel outlet, which here you have to go to Santo Domingo to the outlet on Kennedy. Beautiful stuff. So that they have. But here's what changed. When I got there, it was I went there before the boom. The boom started at the pandemic, right? They were starting right before the pandemic. You started to see the big brokerages from Santo Domingo moving in, and you started to see the building going on. It stopped being a beach town. My whole thing is I have a place in Santiago. That's where I started here. So if I'm in a city, I'm in the city. That's cool, right? But I don't want to be in a city and I'm not going to the beach. And it's something I'll explain to you about Punta Cana that people don't know. And I know because I've lived everywhere. Public beach access is almost non-existent. It's in Corrales Cortecito, right? So if you live there, you can walk to the beach, like you would walk from here to Sosua or to Playa Alicia, right? But there's 2-3 little callejones. Callejon's like the little street that goes to Playa Alicia, right? And the other one. 2-3 little callejones. There's no parking. There's nothing. The streets are horrendous. Potholes. The city doesn't do anything. If it rains for 10 minutes, you're flooded for the next 2 days. So it's not comfortable going to the public beach. And they've never expanded on public beach access, right? So if you're going to live in Punta Cana and you don't have, your complex does not have beach access, going to the beach is not fun. It's not like here, pull up on the side of the road in Cabarete and you can see the beach. I have a place in Cabarete. I walk down the block with my little chair and I have my morning coffee, watching the waves. That doesn't exist there. Now, if you have beach access, you can't. I lived in Cap Cana. They have beach access. But, okay, they have Api Beach. So if you go there, you either got to spend money in the restaurant or you go next door and you have to pay $10 or $20, depending if you're a resident per person, and you can bring your own stuff.
Aye.
Right. So
that takes that defeats the purpose of being here.
I don't think yet it's going to drive them here. I'll explain what's going on. The developers in this country tend to have like their turf, right? Sometimes you'll see them on 2 different turfs. Like the people building Punta Cana, they're also building Miches, and they're also the people building in the south. Then you have developers that are more focused here in Santiago. So they all are doing their stuff. I think what happened was Punta Cana went through this giant boom right at the pandemic, right? And they sold it as an Airbnb paradise. Most of the people that buy, their families, they're people that are moving in places like Cocotal and those places. Like if you're there in Cocotal, example, you have access as an owner. So here's another thing. As an owner, you have access to the Malia Beach, right? I don't think you could bring drinks or anything. You have to consume everything there. And you can hang out on the chelones, on the chairs on the beach. If you're a renter, you have no beach access, only owners. I remember when I lived in Punta Cana Village, right? And it used to be that owners and renters used to be able to go to the beach. I don't know how it is now, mind you. This was 2018. Right when I moved there, they did that if you go before 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I had to go do a $15 consume per person to go to the beach. So I'm like, okay, so I don't have free beach access. They might have done away with it by now. So again, this was 2018. But like, if you want to go to Cap Cana, you have to go to the gate. You have to make a reservation. You have to pay to get in there. You can't just say I'm going to the beach if you don't live inside of Cap Cana, for example. So if you're in one of the other, like the other one that I was telling you with the pool and everything like that, if you want to go there, you can't just be like, oh, I'm going to the pool club there. You have to have a reservation. And if it's the weekend, sometimes they won't take it if they feel like they're going to be full with the Airbnb and with the owners there. And at 5:30, here's the bill. 6 o'clock, everybody's like, get out.
That's crazy. One of the things that I love about the North Coast, I remember when I moved here permanently in 2017, I would take my dog for a walk on the beach every morning. And I would pick what beach am I going to go to. And there was nobody there. There was nothing built in Quain Trail. The old highway going from Quain Trail walking towards Hideaway Beach, I would do that, did that for years. And it was a great walk. And then you would slowly see, things getting built up. But we don't have that mentality on the North Coast where we're going to just block everybody off. Now, granted, Hispaniola Beach, Infinity Blue, Gavensport, you can still get on the beach if you know how to do it. So we have that here, but not at the level that's going on the South Coast.
And then, okay, I can go now to Juanillo. Juanillo is, nice beaches. Not one of my favorites, but it's nice. But what happened, I lived and I stopped going to the beach. So now I've got to drive to the beach, go into this big parking lot. You can't bring the cooler with you. You can't even bring a couple of drinks with you. They want you to consume there. Sure. Right? And it's super expensive. I mean, Punta Cana is very expensive in general, much more expensive than North Coast. I don't think people realize they're hitting like New York prices and or U.S. prices. Like you literally can go and it's $13, $14, $15 a drink because you're getting 28% on everything there.
I just had a guy complaining at Santa Libre with Extra Viejo. God, in my bar, 300 pesos. He's like, how are you charging so much?
No, it's, you get a margarita there, and you're paying. I don't remember what it was because I stopped going. Even though I lived in Cap Cana, I stopped going to the beach because I wasn't enjoying it. So like, let's say we're going and let's grab a cooler of beers, like in a little backpack of beer. No, they have a security kid there, and you can't bring anything in. You can't. If they see you consuming from outside, it could be an issue. Now they have other complexes, right? So that's where I live. Then you have like other complexes where right now. Like there was one complex, I don't want to say the name, because of how people are, but I had a membership to this one place, beautiful pool on the ocean, beautiful, right? Stunning, I mean, incredible. Okay, 5:30, they give you your bill, you got to get out, we're closing at 6, everybody has to leave. And I'm like, what do you mean? People are here with their drinks, they're staying in Airbnb or they're owners. You spend $200,000, $400,000 and you can't see a sunset on your own beach? No, sorry. Now they have lawsuits going on and all that. There are other places, okay, we have beach access, okay? But you got to be in before 6. They close the gate at 6. You can come out, but you can't go in unless you're tipping the guy or whatever. I'm like, damn, okay, so.
Why? What is, do we know what the, because we had that little issue on Sosua Beach about a month ago where they said, nobody can go on the beach at 6.
But your issue here was different. What they were trying to do here, they were trying to do it more like, I give an example, if it was like in the States, Parks and Recreation, right? The government saying it. Over there, it's the complexes that have their rules and how they control the beach access.
It was the individual, it was the complex owners.
Correct.
Not the government.
Correct. The government doesn't get involved in that kind of stuff. You can walk on the public beach anytime you want there, 4 o'clock in the morning, and they have bars and restaurants. But the fact, here's what happened. It got very, very pricey. You have to remember they have the 28% law. There are some places here where, everything's cash. But in general, Santo Domingo, Santiago, Punta Cana, almost every place you go to, they're going to add 28%. So if you're getting a 300 peso beer, and now there's 28% on top of that, and you have a couple of beers, it's normal. Like, a friend of mine that used to work with me, she has her husband and her child. And she said, Mario, we go to the beach club here, and we're spending $250 for the day, $250 just hanging out. And that doesn't include dinner, right? You get a bottle of wine, you get a couple of snacks, you got the kids.
So is with that price point, is that driving businesses back up here, developers back up here?